The Memorial Bell. It was Memorial Day, 1995, and Thomas Barnes, a retired Navy corpsman, was visiting the old Fort Henry Cemetery in Western Virginia. The cemetery sat atop a quiet hill, bordered by dense woods and forgotten Civil War trenches, now swallowed by ivy. Thomas had lost his grandfather, a World War II veteran, and made a point to honor him every year with a small flag and a moment of silence. That year, Thomas arrived earlier than usual. The sky was a pale gray, threatening rain, and only a few cars lined the gravel road near the cemetery entrance. He parked, grabbed the small folded flag from the passenger seat, and made the short walk up the hill. The cemetery was almost completely silent. No birdsong, no wind, just the faint creaking of old iron gates swaying in place. After placing the flag at his grandfather's stone, Thomas stood quietly for a few minutes. He bowed his head. Then, as he always did, he said aloud, "Thanks, Pop. You made it home. Some didn't." He turned to leave, but something made him stop. A sound ding. It was a bell. A soft, metallic chime carried faintly through the air. He looked around. There was no church nearby, no funeral in progress. Just the graves, the trees, and the sound of a single bell ringing once more ding. He followed the sound, weaving through rows of weathered stones, until he came to an old, rusted section of the cemetery he'd never explored before. The grass was taller. The markers were older, mostly from the late 1800s. At the far end stood a cracked stone slab, tilted and partially sunken into the earth. At its base lay a small brass bell. It was the kind that once hung on the coffins of the recently buried. Back in the day, people feared being buried alive, so they'd tie a string to the finger of the deceased, leading up to a bell above ground. Thomas felt a chill. He stared at the bell. It rang again. He crouched, expecting to find a breeze or maybe an animal. But the air was still. The string connected to the bell trailed down into the soil, still intact. The bell rang once more, louder this time. A sharp, unmistakable asterisk ding. Asterisk. Thomas stumbled back. His heart pounded. He whispered, "No way." As he turned to leave, a voice stopped him. "Help!" He froze. The voice was faint, raspy, and came from directly below the bell. Thomas dropped to his knees, ear to the ground. "Please, help me." He shot to his feet and sprinted back to his truck. He didn't stop until he was back at the gravel road. Breathing hard, hands shaking, he debated calling someone police. The groundskeeper? Instead, he sat in his truck, gripping the steering wheel, staring up at the cemetery hill. After 10 minutes, he forced himself to go back, armed this time with a flashlight and an old army shovel he kept in the truck bed. When he returned to the old grave, everything was still. The bell sat motionless. The string looked untouched. He stood for a long time, waiting, listening. Nothing. Eventually, he knelt and read the headstone. Private Elias Cole died May 30th, 1865. Faithful until the end. Thomas realized something. May 30th, the original date of Memorial Day before it was changed years later, was that very day. He never heard the bell again. But every Memorial Day after that, Thomas brought 2 flags to Fort Henry. One for his grandfather and one for Private Elias Cole, just in case he was still listening. Be sure to like and subscribe to Deeply Disturbing Stories for more bone-chilling content.